Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the school board meeting. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Copeland.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. We are pleased to begin tonight's meeting now that we're in full school mode with presentations from our schools. And first up this year, Belmont Hills Elementary School has begun giving the board and public an update on what we're doing with digital portfolios. So I will turn it over to our principal, Robin Clyburn.
Good evening, and we are so excited to be here to present about Seesaw, which is our portfolio platform. And Seesaw came into being from our strategic plan as an initiative. The Transformative Curriculum Pathway took a look at how we could think about looking at how our students show their work and how they present it to not only be reflective for themselves, but for their families as well. It aligns with our transformative goals of personal transformative goals of looking at how we explore and develop students' personal interests and inquiries and passions, how we craft communication through choices informed by the audience and purpose, as well as some of our cultural transformative goals of being able to share stories, ideas, points of view, while engaging others to think interdependently and act collectively. Some of our habits of mind initiatives as well. So what is Seesaw and what is a digital portfolio? It's a way for our students to really be highly engaged in their learning and the process. It's a way for our teachers and peers to have access, and parents to have access, to be able to view and comment on a student's work both in real time and over time. And so this initiative started last year in the 18-19 school year. We piloted with at least one teacher, if not more, in each of the elementary buildings. And this school year, it has been launched in all of grades 3 through 5 with the option for piloting in our kinder through second grade classrooms. At Belmont Hills, we were lucky enough to have some teachers, not only in 3 through 5, but some expert teachers in our kinder through second grade classrooms, and we're going to be showcasing that for you this evening. Next year, after our 3 through 5 teachers are comfortable, we're going to move into all kindergarten through 6th grade classrooms. So all of our elementary schools will be using Seesaw, as well as our 6th grade classrooms in middle school, because our 5th graders are going to take this with them, and we're very excited to see that be able to continue on as they go into middle school. The future plans is for it to be K through 12 and as we move forward and as each grade level in the middle school takes this digital portfolio with them. The why. We want our students to be able to use digital portfolios to tell their academic stories over time, to be able to reflect on their educational artifacts and their learning journeys in ways that are personally meaningful to the learner and instructionally informative to the teacher. And you'll see through the examples that the students are going to share that they had a lot of choice in what they selected, what they continue to select in their digital portfolio, to add to their digital portfolios, and what they share with their families, and what they share and what they choose to create inside of their portfolios. So some of the additional benefits of these portfolios are that it's creating a digital trail beyond just traditional curriculum measures such as a writing sample. You're able to see learning come to life, such as how a student was reading at the beginning of the year and how a student's reading at the middle of the year and the end of the year. It's not just numbers, it's a story. Teachers are able to view what their students look like in previous grade levels rather than just having those artifacts that were just paper and pencil. And students can also revisit what their experiences look like. I talk to students all the time. We have students that are just going to Riverbend tomorrow for first grade and thinking about what their Riverbend experience was like when they were in kindergarten, and having those artifacts to be able to look back and see what those experiences were like, and those experiences that were not just inside the classroom, but how we can involve creating artifacts that are not just taking place inside those four walls. And it involves a lot of parent involvement. And the students are going to tell you a lot more about how parents can view this not only when we send something home, but while they're in the office or while they're out running an errand. So I'm going to turn it over now to Ms. Kim Phillips, one of our fourth grade teachers, and she's going to tell you a little bit about how she uses it in the classroom.
Yeah.
Great. I love using Seesaw in my classroom. Not only do I get to target individual students, but small groups to differentiate the needs of my students. When I do give them assignment, they are so excited because not only do they get feedback from me, but their parents get to see their work at home, and they can send them a little heart emoji or a comment to let them know what they think of their work. Not only do I just get to send home and share student work, but it lets them see some special parts of my students' day. For example, we did a STEM lesson last week where my students designed their own water filtration systems. And the students actually got to videotape the process of testing their water filtration system, talking through why they chose the materials, and then got to celebrate their success at the end. That's something I could never capture in a piece of paper and pencil sending home. It was a really nice experience. The video I'm going to show you now is something special I do called Takeover Tuesday. One part of my classroom experience is we always start our day with morning meeting. Usually I lead, but on Takeover Tuesday, a student plans out all of the different components of morning meeting: the greeting, the share, and the activity. This is one of my students who's actually leading our morning circle, and I got to send the video home to his family for them to see his excellent leadership skills. The video is a little bit low, so I don't know, can we push play on here? I've not seen.
I'll
Okay, push play. But you might not be able to hear it exactly.
Rather have a private jet, or would you rather have a sports car?
You want me to- So you just want to say what the student
Sure,
said? The student, go
yeah,
ahead.
I believe the student in this was telling the students.
rather?
It's a would you rather question. Would you rather, do X or Y? And the students went around to pick. But I also have two other students here today that are going to share with me what they think about using Seesaw in class. All right, Madeline?
I like that you can use so many tools on Seesaw. You don't just type on a keyboard. You can use a drawing pad or a recorder to explain your thinking. I like that my teacher can comment on my work. If I get a correction, I can learn from my mistakes.
Excellent. Thank you, Madeline. And this is Noah.
I enjoy that I can show my parents pictures of class projects and videos of experiences that they would not usually get to see.
Excellent. Good job.
And now I'd like to introduce Bobby Moore, who is a first grade teacher at Belmont Hills, who has been using this since last year. So she's one of our ambassadors and a go-to person, not only in our school, but for the district.
And I also enjoy using Seesaw. Last year, when I signed up for the pilot, I didn't realize kind of what it entailed. So I did the beginning training, and in the evenings, I would be sitting with my computer, and my daughter even said, "Mom, what are you doing? You're so into that." And I feel like I kind of transfer that over to my students. So I would say my very number one thing that I love about it is that I can differentiate. No matter whether it's math, it's reading, writing, any curricular area, I'm able to differentiate for each individual student. The second thing that I love about it is how we can store their work. I'll show you an example in a minute of a child who took a picture of their journal and then read it. And we can do that throughout the year. And the thing about it is that you can show the child their progress. A lot of times in first grade, you can tell a student, oh, you're getting better at this or getting better at that. But when they see it and they hear it, it's very powerful. And the last thing is what my parents love most, and I get a lot of comments and little emails from them, is that they get to see what we're doing in school and what their students are doing. And do you want to show that?
Mm-hmm.
I can read a story to my sister, and she likes it when I do that.
So that's documented, and we can again do it over and over. That will be stored. It will travel with her to second grade all the way up through the grades. And I have two students here today, Tyler and Emma. And they'd like to tell you why they like Seesaw.
I like it's because my mom and dad can see my work without putting it in my red folder. I like to do the activities with math.
You do a great job, thank you. And Emma?
I like it because my mom can text me, put it on Seesaw that she can comment me and put hearts and emojis.
And what activity do you like to do the best?
the artwork.
The art project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As you can see, there's a variety of ways that we're using Seesaw throughout, not just for curricular, but to be able to establish connections, to be able to show what we're doing, not only in the classroom, but in French class. When we go out on field trips, we can take an iPad with us and record those moments, and we're just bringing the classroom we're bringing the parents into the classroom and bringing students even more invested into being able to see what they can do. So at this time, are there any questions about how we use Seesaw at Belmont Hills?
So, are there any questions or comments?
I'd like to take you with me when I do budget presentation.
The kids?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting us.
All right, it pretty much goes downhill from here. Our next presentation is from Montgomery County Planning Commission. I'm sure he's going to do a great job and tell us what the enrollment's going to look like. Dan?
All right.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me again. This is our fifth year, essentially. Our fourth update to the original study that we conducted in the spring of 2015. That recommended scenario within that study projected a gain of 1,248 students at that time through 2024-25. And since then, we have done 3 other updates other than this one we've done this year. Last year's update and recommended scenario projected a gain of 705 students over the next 10 years through 2028-29. Looking at actual enrollment from that year, we came in about 1/3% within the margin of error, which is actually fairly respectable for projections 1 year out. So we think we're getting it fairly right. Growth was anticipated based on several factors, though. One number of those were the continuation of larger recent classes, the popularity and reputation of the district, more families choosing public school over private school compared to the past, an increase in expected residential construction, especially multifamily projects, more public students coming from older apartment units in the district, as well as an increase in housing sales activity with a larger net result of incoming students. So first, I'm just going to do a brief demographic and housing update, and then I'll just get right into the models and its results. So first up, we'll just take a look at district enrollment over the past 10 years by different grade levels. That orange line is the overall total K through 12 enrollment over the last 10 years, and it does reflect a high period of growth. Where I think we should pay attention, though, is that blue line, that K through 5. You can see over the last 5 years that line has largely started to, it's fairly variable, but it's largely started to stabilize. So we're starting to see essentially the highest enrollments we're likely to see at the elementary school level. Now, where growth is still going to take place and is starting to take place is in those 6 to 8 and 9 to 12 years. Right now, we're really seeing it in the 6 to 8. In the next, coming 3 to 5 years, you're really going to start to see it in the 9 through 12. Growth does become much harder to sustain from a numbers perspective, as it requires more and more students to achieve gains. So unless you're bringing in more and more students in kindergarten and first grade and the younger grades every year, more than you already have now, you're not going to have such a breakneck pace growth, at least at the elementary school level, going forward. So like I said, as elementary schools were the prime driver before, now it is more the middle schools and high school where the growth is accelerating. One of the biggest, I think, determinants of the growth in enrollment, or one of the things that's contributed to it over the last 10 years, has definitely been the decrease in private school enrollment of students who dwell within the district. So you can see that from 2000 to 2017, which 2017 is an ACS 5-year estimate, it's a census figure, you can see that it's gone down by over 1,000 students, and the percentage of the students, school-age students within the district who are going to private school has declined by nearly 10% as well, to around 27.9%. Lmsd, or Lower Merion School District records, also confirm this decline in private school enrollment within the district. So, one of the big things we look at is housing construction, and we want to know the impacts of that housing construction on enrollment through the district. So, we have a study that we conducted based on 2010 census data, which is the last 100% count of the census, where we can get a full count of how many people were living in the district at the time. And you can see that we have county level figures and local figures for the local Marion School District, at least for existing units, as there weren't enough new units to base rates off of. You can see that for most part, multifamily provides the fewest school-age children, while single-family detached the most. New units provide more children in detached homes, but generally less in attached and multifamily. And this is something that we do see within the district. However, I will say that when looking at existing units in multifamily, you do have more students that do come from existing multifamily developments than some other districts, or the county average at least. And when it comes to even new multifamily units, certain buildings that have more family amenities, that might have larger format apartments, like 2 and 3 bedrooms, we have seen slightly higher rates of students coming from those buildings, but not to a degree that you would see, say, coming from an attached development or a detached development, which generally produce a lot more students. So, on that note, multifamily developments, there has been an increase from last year. However, the average for the last 4 periods that we've been conducting this study remains around 600 students per year. So I'd largely say that for the most part you've plateaued, but at a fairly high rate compared to where you were in 2006-07 when we initially did this study. You can see that right now in 2019-20, the student unit or the student per unit ratio is just under 0.1. So it's been around that pretty much the whole time that we've been doing the studies, since 2015-16 at least. So generally, this is your carrying capacity for enrollment in existing multifamily. At least that's what we're seeing based on enrollment. When looking at multifamily housing with 10 to 19 units, so the smaller buildings, of which Lower Marion does have a lot, especially in places like Ardmore, Bryn Mawr, and along Montgomery Avenue, we have seen a rise in students coming from those as well. But again, that's also kind of plateaued or stalled even in the last couple of years. It's around 70 students coming from 531 units, and that's about 0.13 ratio. When looking at the most recent multifamily developments, this is where we do like to pay attention and where we kind of, we'll finesse the rates that we apply to new construction going forward to be more nuanced for your district. This past year, 2019, we did have 2 new large multifamily developments deliver. One called the Ardmore 1, the other the Kelly. They both had around 110 units, but collectively they only contributed about 15 students so far to the district at a rate of 0.5 and 0.05 and 0.09 respectively. These actually are some of the smaller contributors to the district in terms of new development. Now, when looking at the Maybrook is a larger one. It's 250 units. That was built in 2017. It's gone up a few students since it initially started contributing students to the district, and its rate is 0.13. The other ones I think to pay attention to would be the Square and Palmer Seminary. Those are the ones that have actually provided a decent amount of students towards the district. About 1 in 6 units has a student. But collectively, again, they only have about 27 students, 28 students together. So it's still not statistically like a large number of students coming from these new developments, but it is still something that we will take into account when projecting development forward. All right, so moving on to housing sales. This is a trend that we're seeing across the county, across the eastern end of the county, specifically districts that border the city of Philadelphia, such as Abington. There has been a lot more student gain as a result of what we call housing churn or generational transfer of housing. We're finally starting to see houses really transfer from some of the older generations to the younger generations coming into the district. This past year in 2018, while you had a smaller amount of units sold overall, you had more students as a result of those sales, around 165 new students added to the district in that year alone. But it's also highly variable in your district too. In 2015, you had a net decrease of 26 students as a result of this housing churn. That's not as it's more variable than we've seen in some other districts. But in general, these last 3 periods have been pretty brisk additions to the district as a result of housing churn. And going forward, we're likely to continue to see that kind of growth. When looking at new housing, single-family detached and attached homes have continued close to recent trend levels. The large number of multifamily units proposed in the district have started to come in. Approximately 719 market rate units have been built in the last 14 years, excluding 10 that were in addition to the Waverly development, which is an age-restricted development. A trend of recent development is calculated and subtracted from future development to adjust for expected impacts from upcoming development. So there is an additional 1,534 multifamily units that are expected over the next 5 years, and we will talk about where those are likely to come in and what that means for the district. This map is just showing you where those units over the last 5 years have been built. You can see there's a lot of clustering around Montgomery Avenue and Lancaster Avenue when it comes to the denser housing configurations, like attached and multifamily, but that single-family detached and other attached are spread fairly evenly throughout the district. Kinwood and Penn Valley are your biggest catchments with the most construction of units, but that's mainly due to 2 fairly large multifamily developments, not necessarily due to a lot of single-family detached or attached units. So this is a map of your upcoming development. It's a little crowded, don't be scared. But you can see that there's a good amount being built within the Kinwood catchment. I would say it's probably your biggest locus of development going forward. There is also that ominous yellow bubble that says 6 possible projects, 2,060 units, before everyone freaks out. That 2,060 units, it represents developers trying to get plans in before a zoning rewrite for that area, which is likely to actually decrease the future density or potential density of that area and the number of units that could get built. None of those have been approved. They may not be approved. So most of them will come back for revisions and will have to conform to new zoning and things like that. So this is not a set in stone. Where the ones that you should pay attention to are the green ones. Those are the ones that we know of, are in the process, or in the pipeline for construction. Here's just another way of looking at those developments. This I just want to use to explain our factors. You can see that there are asterisks next to the different developments. They represent different factors that we apply to those. In units that have more in buildings that have more 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, we applied a higher ratio to kind of stimulate what we think would be more families likely to go to that development. Only a few of them though really have that kind of makeup, and we get this information from CoStar, which is a third-party resource that gives us vacancy information as well as unit makeups and things like this. But overall, you can see that because you've been actually delivering a good amount of multifamily over the last 3 years, the average trend development impact is fairly high. So in other words, development has to be twice as much to really give you that much more students over the trend that's already happening. So what we're seeing most of that development come online fairly regularly, and that impact become fairly regular. So beyond that, you're going to see about 27 more students over the next 5 years over the trend level, which the trend level would give you 130 students. But that's the difference that we add to the model. So let's get real quick, we'll go right into the model. So this year, every year, we use the cohort progression model, which is a standard model for projecting enrollment or other cohort-based populations forward in time. This year, we use the traditional BDK method. As you may remember in the last 2 updates, we kind of shifted or recalibrated the model to put an emphasis on the birth to first grade connection, as we saw that was a stronger connection. We had kind of a test that we applied, as you'll remember. It was a range of the rates over the last 5 years. So we look at what that B to 1 rates, those averages, the difference between those top and lowest rate, as well as the B to K and B to 1. And this year, the test actually resoundingly gave us back that the B to K, K to 1 ratio this year is honestly the strongest connection that we can make. So this is a much easier progression to explain because it's essentially the traditional birth to kindergarten, kindergarten to first. You can also see another thing just to point out on this is that every single average except for the B to K is above 1, meaning that every single average grade is on average adding students from year to year as opposed to losing them when the rate is below 0.
Dan, let me just stop you for a second. Just want to make sure I've got everybody with me on this. So you're looking at a cohort survival.
Yes.
To give you some indication as to who is going to show up in school.
Yes.
And you can either look at it a birth to kindergarten or a birth to first grade, because we have half-day kindergarten, it's trickier and more nuanced. You never know how many kids are going to choose a private kindergarten and then stay there, or choose a private kindergarten and come, and so that's what you're trying to balance,
yes,
right?
Exactly. Okay. So, when accounting for all of this, the overall district-wide results show a total change of 715 students over the next 10 years. Again, because all of the development that we know of is programmed over the next 5 years, the immediate 5 years shows the most amount of growth, especially the next 3 years. Right now, we're at 8,800 students. We should be at 9,515 by the end of 10 years. Like I said, this also accounts for an average of the last 6 years of birth projected forward as well. So we're not putting an enhanced birth scenario in here, as births in general across the county, including this district, are generally flat. When we look at the results by school level, we're finally past the period, like I said earlier in the presentation, where elementary school is the prime driver of the growth. Under this model, we're only projecting an average net growth of 24 students over the next 10 years in the elementary school level. Much of that, there will still be some growth for the next couple of years before some variability, playing with essentially the same 20, 30 students over the next 6 to 7 years after that. Middle school is still going to be a fairly decent growth driver. It's going to go from 2,114 students to likely 2,219 by the end of 10 years, representing an 105 student net increase. High school. High school is where you're going to see your large growth over the next 10 years, especially a lot in the early and middle period of the next 10 years. You're going from 2,777 to 3,363. When looking at the results specifically by elementary school level, you can see that 4 of the 7 elementary schools are due to peak within the next couple years, in the first 5 years of this scenario, while Kinwood and Penn Valley are looking to peak likely in the first year of the second 5-year period. The only school that's kind of the outlier is Belmont Hills, which we don't show peaking until the end of the 10-year period, but still in the end it's only going to represent likely a 6-student increase over today. Kinwood will also be the same, only 6 students. Now again, the caveat with Kinwood is if there is a lot more development that does take place, especially in that second 5-year period, Kinwood could grow at a faster pace or account for more of the growth in the district. Gladwin, we see an average student growth of 14 by the end of 10 years, Marion 13, Penn Valley 15, and Penn Wynne is likely to lose around 25 students by the end of the 10-year period. The results by middle school and high school show that Bala-Kinwood Middle School will likely bear the brunt of most of the middle school growth, especially as those elementary schools that feed into Bala-Kinwood are some of the more growth-heavy ones. Welch Valley Middle School will grow by about 20 students at the end of the 10-year period, when they're both due to peak in 2026-27. Harridan High School will likely see about 143 student growth over the next 10 years, while Lower Merion would likely see 442. This is also assuming an average 52-48 split between favoring Harridan over Lower Merion for school choice. That was the ratio this year. It's also the average ratio over the last 5 years. As you'll know, last year, though, was a kind of a flip. Lower Merion was actually the preferred 55 to 45, 55 to 45, I believe. So, in conclusion, growth will continue overall. There are still many large grades in the district, and they will be causing growth in the upper schools. In addition to the attractiveness of the district, private school enrollment continues to decline, multifamily continues to provide students, and new residential construction is continuing. However, it does become more difficult to grow after a sustained period, such as the last 9 years, especially at the elementary school level, where large grades have become more consistent from K through 5th. Under the recommended scenario, the district grows by another 715 students over the next 10 years. Growth hits the high schools the hardest, 586 students added. Middle schools also increase by 105 students, while elementary schools grow only by 24 students, but some schools may still have capacity issues as they have yet to hit their peak. So that is still something. If you're at your heights, or you're kind of breaking already in your elementary schools, there is still some growth to come spread across them. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right. Whew. All right. Any questions?
Before I just some, I know the board, I'm sure does. A couple of times, Dan mentioned 25 kids, 26 kids, statistically not a lot. It may not be statistically a lot, but depending on where the students fall, when we're trying to keep class sizes down, in particular elementary schools, and we're already having classes on the stage and so forth and so on, those can sometimes be a problem. We also, in terms, we didn't ask them to really look at this in terms of the new middle school, but we have taken a look at it by taking the existing elementary schools and putting them together Megan, for the new middle school with Penwyn and Gladwin, what will the enrollment be in the future?
If we're looking at 22, 23, and under one of our transition scenarios, moving Penwyn and Gladwin into the new school and alleviating BC and Welsh Valley of those students, your numbers at BC with a 5.8 enrollment are about 941, at Welsh Valley about 880, and then at the new school about 1150, and that's with the prior numbers, but they're roughly in the same.
So
neighborhood.
1150, and we were building for 1,200. So we're opening up almost on capacity. And I think the overall picture is, in the last 5 years, there's been an 800 student growth in just the last 5 years. So I throw it open to.
Okay,
Bless you.
are there any questions?
Thanks.
I know.
That was hard to follow, I have to say.
Okay, sorry.
But, we did get the report in advance, so most of the stuff was fairly familiar. But one question I did have was the choice area numbers. So you said 57-43?
No, it's 52. It's 52-48 this year in favor of Harrison.
52-48. So 52 go.
Chose in the choice area chose to go to Harrison over Lower Merion.
So, and the number is on average about that, or?
Actually, yes, yeah, it actually aligned fairly well with the 5-year average.
So it's pretty close to even ways either
Yeah.
way. Okay, thank you.
It is now.
Yeah.
We just don't know what's going to happen when a number of students who ordinarily would have gone to BC are now going to school in the Western, and may decide Harrison in the future.
Right. No, I understand that it changes every year, but for the longest time it was the other way around.
The other way around, yeah.
The bulk of the students chose, it was 60-40
Oh yeah.
to go to
Couple years ago.
LM as opposed to Harrington.
Yeah, and even last year I believe it was like 55-45 too in favor of Lower Merion. So it's actually represents a shift. Against that.
Okay, yeah, that was that. Okay,
Yeah.
that was what I thought. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that's a big additional add for Lower Merion.
Yeah.
You're projecting. I'm wondering, did you adjust your model to factor in any potential, future recession? And
No,
the
no.
potential incoming of private school kids
Right,
as a
like if there was a
result?
recession and more kids chose to no,
Yeah.
we haven't factored that in. It's a big kind of a harder thing to both isolate from the model and to
Sure.
kind of graft onto. Of course,
Okay.
you can kind of make up any kind of what if scenario, percentage growth as a result of X, Y, and Z. But that's when you're getting kind of in the weeds of this type of model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to ourselves factor that in, did you do that you have that number from the last recession? I mean, is there a way we could predict that based on past analysis? Bob, maybe you know.
I'd have to say no. There are certain things we
Okay.
can predict in terms of a recession having to do with taxation and so forth and so on. But behavior is a different kind of a situation, particularly when you're already seeing a decline in the number of students. So it's really hard to tell. Certain things we can predict. You can be sure that if you go to full-day kindergarten, you will get more than you would have had you not. So there are those things like that you can predict. How much more is hard to tell. But I'd say that in a behavior situation like that, it would be way too nuanced.
Yes. I agree.
Thank you for the presentation, Dan. I had a question on your figure 26. Do we have a sense of an average of the number of students we might expect given the the number of possible and likely units that will be coming on board?
From those new,
Yes.
those further out developments?
Yes.
Yeah, so figure 25 actually is an outlay essentially of those less certain projects that we were talking about. So we break down the ones that we do know of, and from that we also kind of did, a public student kind of, potential where it would come from. And it does, I think it's around 100 and something students, like 120 something students.
And does that hold for the past studies that you've done on our behalf in terms of those numbers and those projections?
In general, yeah. I mean, so most of the development that we're starting to see come online now was at once proposed to, and was a similar amassing of this type. This, I would say, is a little bit more, and like I said, the reason for that is situational. It's because the township is looking to do a rewrite of the zoning in that area, and developers will oftentimes try and get projects in under the current zoning if that's what they believe is more favorable.
So it could be potentially overstated given.
Yes,
given
very much so.
things
And none
that
of these have been
to come.
approved, and they may not, may get approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
No problem.
Excuse me. My quick question is for the newer apartment unit side. So I'm going to give you the story and see if there's
Sure.
The rumor mill is that the one Ardmore isn't 100% occupied.
That's true, yeah.
So
'cause
my
it's fairly
question
new.
is, for those larger units, did you get a sense, or do you have numbers? You don't have to tell me, but if I were to ask you, is the Maybrook 100% full? Do you know that? Is that
So I
factored in?
believe
Things of that nature.
Yeah, right. So like I said, we do now have a third-party subscription to CoStar, which gives us that vacancy percentage, right? So the average vacancy or the carrying capacity vacancy for a typical multifamily building is usually around 10%. So when we see that, you can kind of consider that like full. There's always some percentage that's in flux. Less than that, we'll see less than that usually when they're newer buildings. However, I will say the Kelly, which is pretty new, just recently opened this past year, is already 80% full. So these units are going fast. So my inclination, though, is that Arbor 1's a little bit more expensive, a little bit more Tony. It's possible that may take longer to get together, but I think when we checked that, it was around 60%. So it's still kind of not full, but it also has not so far been a big contributor of students. Yeah, no problem.
I was only going to add that at this point, we've had several years of demographic projections, and we're building the school, so I don't know, I mean, the board can weigh in that we'll continue with the demographic projections. I don't know that you're going to get anything more than nuances from one year to another, but I think we're where we need to be, and I think it's well supportive of the concept of the third middle school and grades 5 through 8 and providing some relief in our elementary schools.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Denise.
We'll now have audience recognition on action items only. If you could come up and sign in, it would be appreciated.
These are for action items. Sorry. Just gonna, you can just stay right here. I'm just gonna shrink. Okay.
That's why I jumped up. Okay, okay.
You go ahead, you can get started.
Okay, I'm Michelle Detweiler and president of the Penn Valley Civic Association, and we were a little surprised to see the potential for bus parking on the Welsh Valley property on the former St. Justin site on the agenda tonight, and also the vote for a $40,000 exploratory plan. And so I just wanted to make some comments. They're not fully informed at all because I'm just seeing it on the agenda, but it's a little bit of a hot button item for our area because we've had a long history of attempted bus parking in Penn Valley, since 2009. It was one of the first issues that I was brought up to speed on when I first started with the Civic. So we would like to ask if you would consider delaying the vote on the $40,000 exploratory plan tonight until you better vet if it's truly very necessary for the parking to exist there, and if there's a reality that it might actually be approved. residents in the area, if you're not familiar there, are already quite frustrated with just the congestion of vehicles. We host so many cars and buses and service vehicles going into a single entrance at Welsh Valley, right off of Tower Lane. So the unfortunate situation is St. Justin's is right on the edge of the property, across from homes, and so it's not on the interior where the buses would sort of be hidden from public view. And it adds to the frustration of the neighborhood to think about suddenly having your home in front of bus parking, including extra vehicles and so forth. And I don't understand what overnight parking means necessarily. I understand that's, the issue is that it would only be overnight. But if the need for buses is temporary until the new middle school is built, would you consider leasing property elsewhere to store the extra buses until the new middle school comes online as a possibility? That's one thought we had, especially given the cost of the exploratory plan, much less the implementation. We certainly support a revised school start time, so we don't want to delay that at all. We just would like to better understand what this means for our neighborhood and Welsh Valley, given that we host such a big school already in the neighborhood. So thank you for the consideration.
Ruth Jenkins from Wynwood. My question is about the presentation previous to this statement. The movement of students on that proposition that moves them into a school that they wouldn't ordinarily go to if there's no room for them in their local school. Would that apply to the high school if Lower Merion is filled to capacity? Would the students then be suggested that they go to Harriton? Thank you.
I'm Kathy Ramaswamy. I'm from Penn Valley. I'm a professor at the Wharton School. I do research on fraud and earnings manipulation. I'd also like you to delay the vote because I'm not confident in the numbers that are being posted as the bus estimates. I suspect the district could be overstating the transportation problem, but my right to know request to get information, one would need to figure that out, was denied by the district's attorneys. Here are my specific questions. And I think they need to be answered to make us all comfortable that the district is not trying to sabotage the proposal as was alleged at the last meeting by overstating cost estimates. The current estimate is 10 to 15 new buses. 2 years ago, a school bus consultant also showed those same numbers, but they said they did not reroute buses or redesign shuttles. They said that doing this from the ground up could lead to significant efficiencies. In your current proposal, are you rerouting and redesigning? Second, a budget presentation noted that although enrollment had increased by 758 students since 2013, the district has not purchased any new buses. I'm afraid that part of the reason for the new buses is that the district wants to reduce current overcrowding. I brought a table from the bus report, if you want one later. As shown, there are 1.1 buses per 100 students, which is extremely low. Are the proposals for new buses simply bringing the district back to normal capacity usage? If so, why is starting school later being blamed for the necessary increase? 3, a 2017 report said that the shuttle system is used to transport students to 55 schools. The number being advertised to the community is 115 non-public schools. Does that mean the district uses contract drivers to transport students to 60 schools? If so, the number 115 is not the right number and is exaggerating the bus problem. I've heard some parents don't want their lower school children commingled. Is that against state law? In the current estimates, are you conceding to a small number of parental preferences about commingling at the expense of the 2,000 high schoolers who would be better off? Would redesigning the shuttle system allow for a compromise? Are you really thinking creatively? For example, the state report mentions that school districts combine middle and upper schools in a two-tier system. See Table 1, I'll give you this. If you replace smaller buses with larger, which you did to deal with the enrollment increases, you don't need more parking or more drivers. Was that considered? The state is considering reducing the radius around the district to which you must transport private schools to 5 miles. But PA will remain one of the most onerous states in the U.S. nonetheless, one of only 7 that requires private school transportation. The Senate bill is not going far enough. Are you lobbying the state and asking the community to help lobby? Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. Sorry.
I can say that, yes, what we're doing with the bus parking situation is trying to be proactive. The estimates that transportation has given us suggest that if we were to move to the new start time next year, that we would need, how many buses?
12 additional routes.
12.
11 additional routes.
11. So we're looking for where we can do that. Penn Valley is the place that we have it, but we're a long way there. The reason we really can't delay is because of the length of time for land, for the approval, correct? Isn't that what you're?
Correct. If you submit a land development application, there's a 3-month cycle before you actually get a decision from the Township Board of Commissioners.
Thank you. And Mrs. Jenkins, we have not thought about using the partner schooling, as I think what you were referring to. We have not looked at that to even secondary school education, secondary school enrollments.
For routine board president report, we're going to approve the meeting minutes of the Board of School Directors of the following meetings. October 21st, regular business board meeting. October 24th, special meeting of the board. November 11th, education and supplementary regular board meeting. And accept the following committee meeting minutes: November 6th, curriculum, November 8th, policy, and November 14th, facilities and purchasing. Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All set. We do have some highlights that I'd like to share with the board and public. Congratulations to 10 of our seniors who recently signed national letters of intent to play various sports for colleges and universities next year, which means they get scholarships and their parents are happy. From Harridan, we have Andrew Wallace, golf at Drexel, Michael Anderson, soccer at St. Joe's, Rowan Terran, baseball at the University of the Sciences, Jason Aoyama will play soccer at the Naval Academy. Ava Sack will row crew for Harvard. Lucy Dwyer will play lacrosse for Cornell. And Maddie Henderson will play lacrosse for LaSalle. From Lower Merion, Addie David will play volleyball for Bard College. Marlon Rose will play baseball for Chestnut Hill College. And Kyle Patlove will play baseball for Union College. Also, a reminder that our schools will be taking part in American Education Week when we invite community members to visit. You can find details about the schedules for individual schools on our website. Finally, we are pleased to share that both of our high schools were named Top 500 STEM Schools by Newsweek. And I guess I've got HR. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the attached Human Resources Actions HR 1 through HR 5.
Are there any questions? HR 6?
Did I say something differently? To HR 6, I'm sorry. HR 1 to HR 6.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I'd like to take the opportunity, now the board has passed the motion, to introduce to the board again and to the public Jen Gladosio. that her? She's new, so get a couple of shots at this. As our new Director of Elementary Education. Jen, would you like to say a few words?
Good evening. Thank you very much for the chance to tell you just how excited I am at the opportunity to become part of the Lower Merion School District. Lower Merion has a wonderful reputation for excellence and innovation and a truly inspiring vision. I've been in Wallingford Swarthmore, a wonderful place, for 23 years, and I really look forward to bringing the skills and the vision and the energy to Lower Merion and to helping to collaborate with you and support you in the work toward your vision. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you. It's a privilege.
Now we'll have a report from Dr. Van Lynch from the Curriculum Committee.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. The Curriculum Committee met on Tuesday, November 6th. Ms. Robinson served in my absence as acting chair. Thank you, as always. We had a full agenda of course proposals, 8 new course proposals for our students in the high schools. I'm just going to highlight those courses as they were discussed at length at the Education Committee meeting last Monday. So the first course proposal is an AP 3D Art and Design course, which is a year-long elective course to help students develop 3D mediums such as sculpture, architectural models, metalwork, ceramics, glasswork, and others as they learn the principles of 3D design. The second course is an AP, and let me add that all courses will be available at both schools, Lower Merion High School as well as Harridan High School. AP Computer Science Principles. This course offers a multidisciplinary approach to teaching the underlying principles of computation. Course 3, Cybersecurity. This one-semester elective course will provide learners with principles of data and technology that frame and define cybersecurity. Course 4, Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning, so we see a theme going here. This one-semester elective course will foster students' creativity and innovation by presenting opportunities to design, implement, and present meaningful programs using machine learning. Course 5, Environmental Science, an introductory year-long course for students who wish to study topics relating to environment, resources, and quality and ethical issues. Course 6, Voices of African American Literature, a year-long elective course for 11th or 12th grade students who will study works of African American authors through the lens of contemporary issues related to race, culture, and identity in literature. Course 7, Film and Literature, another year-long elective course for our 11th or 12th graders. Very exciting, Ms. Finger over here. Course is centered equally between the study of film and the study of literature. And finally, Sports and Society, a year-long elective course also for our 11th or 12th graders, which is literature-based and inquiry-focused, and will explore the ways that sports shape culture, as well as how culture shapes both the perception and reality of sports. Again, all courses are being offered at both high schools for the 2021 academic year, with the exception of Sports and Society, which will be offered at Lower Merion High School in 2021 and at both high schools in 21-22. Certainly these courses make me want to return to high school, so we're excited that these courses are available to our students, and many of which align with the goals of the strategic plan. And finally, the next meeting will be Tuesday, December 3rd, and a huge thank you to all the administrators and staff that I've had the opportunity to work with over the several years that I've been the chair of Curriculum Committee. So with that, I conclude.
Under Educational Services, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the overnight field trips, Lower Merion High School Science Olympiad to Cornell University, 11/22/19 to 11/24/19.
Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Under Student Services, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the student service items as listed. Agreement for students receiving non-district educational services, SS1 to SS11.
Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Oh, now I'll introduce Mr. Driscoll for the Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. We met this past Thursday in this room as usual, and we began reviewing and recommending for approval a list of bills. The next was a contract from Air and Gas Technologies, $58,802.70. The district has fuel monitoring devices to measure how much fuel is pumped into the buses. The current systems we have are over 20 years old and no longer work, so this contract is actually to replace broken equipment. Decision Support Group, $9,950. In anticipation of changing school start times, this contract is to have an RFP drafted to send outside bus companies to supplement the existing district fleet. Starlight, $43,475, as part of the last month's contract to replace the district's wireless microphone systems in various auditoriums. The labor to conduct that work was inadvertently left off, so this item is just being included. Visual Sound, $14,438.70, provide 1 year of maintenance for the software programs in the elementary and middle schools, and some high school classrooms for the interactive projector systems and smart boards. E-Plus, $14,597.76, software package to support the district's email archiving system. Presidio, $60,619.92, an amendment to an existing contract to list out the products that will be used during the final year of the current 3-year contract. Shepherd Restoration Engineers, 2 items, one at Marion, not to exceed $32,100, to provide design, specification, and contract administration for masonry work and for the slopes shingle roof replacement. The next one from Shepherd was for Penn Valley, not to exceed $49,500, to provide design, specification, and contract administration for the facade repairs to the exterior walls of the auditorium. The next item was from Chester Valley Engineers, again 2 items. One at Welsh Valley, not to exceed $40,000, to provide engineering and survey services in support of possibly submitting a preliminary plan application with the township to provide school bus parking at the old St. Justin sites in furtherance of exploring our change of start time. In addition to the change in start, my Lower Merion High School contract not to exceed $60,000 to provide engineering and survey services in support of possibly submitting a preliminary land application with the township to provide lights on Arnold Field, as if our high school students will be arriving later, the sports will get pushed out into the early evening. That concluded our business meeting, and we just had project updates on the new middle school. They are still hammering out the final design, looking at cost reduction efforts, hoping to submit a final plan early December to keep that project moving. There was the issue of AT&T had a cell tower. That temporary tower has been approved by the zoning hearing board, so that should be moved off the mansion over to the tower, which is good news. And the Act 34 hearing required in Pennsylvania is still being tentatively scheduled for January 2020. Meeting concluded, and our next meeting will be December 12th in this room. Thank you.
Under the Business Office of Finance, I'd like to take actions B through G in one motion. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the following action items: approve the list of bills, approve the financial report for October 2019, approve the transfers in the 2018 budget, approve the transfer from the general fund to the capital projects fund in the amount of $14,900,000 and authorizes the business manager to make this transfer. Accept approval from PDE, Pennsylvania Department of Education, for Plan Con K, that is project refinancing for the issuance of general obligation bond Series A of 2019 to refund the Series 2013 and 2014, and declare surplus equipment as surplus property and authorize the disposition thereof.
Does anyone have any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Under the Facilities and Operations,
Can we take B separate?
sorry, B as in boy? Okay. So then, Okay, so all the items, A through H, were all discussed at the facilities meeting as noted in Mr. Driscoll's report. I'm going to take items A and then C through H, and then we'll come back and we'll do B, okay? The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the following action items. Approve the proposals from Shepherd Restoration Engineers for masonry facade and restoration and shingle roof replacement at Merritt Elementary for not to exceed amount of $32,100. Masonry restoration of the auditorium walls at Penn Valley Elementary School for not to exceed of $49,500. Approve the proposal from Air and Gas Technologies for the Fuel Master System upgrade. That is in the amount of $58,802.70. Approve the supplemental services RFP development for transportation by Decision Support Group at a cost of $9,950. Approve the quote from E Plus for Barracuda email archiver subscription in the amount of $14,597.76. Approve the quote from Visual Sound for Smart Learning Suite 1-year extended service software maintenance in the amount of $14,438.70. Approve the addendum to the existing managed service agreement from Presidio in the amount of $60,619.92. Approve the quote from Starlight for labor on district-wide wireless microphone replacement in the amount of $43,475.
Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item B, the administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve professional services with Chester Valley Engineers, Inc. for the following two items. An individual work order to submit preliminary plan application for the installation of permanent stadium lights at Lower Merion High School, Arnold Field, for not to exceed amount of $60,000. And then an individual work order to submit preliminary plan application for school bus parking on the Welsh Valley Middle School campus for not to exceed amount of $40,000.
Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, thanks for taking this separately. I just wanted to make it clear, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but we're approving preliminary plans. We're not voting tonight to install lights or to put buses at Welsh Valley, correct?
Correct. We're quite frankly just putting ourselves in position to have options.
Are there any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I get to call myself for the policy committee meeting. Okay. The policy committee met on November 8th in this room. We received an update. Ms. Schaefer took a moment to review the upcoming review process for policies. The committee has completed the 200 series, minus the ones that are being reviewed by the strategic plan team. Next, the 600s will be reviewed, while the 300s, 400s, and 500s continue to be consolidated. Once the 200s have been reviewed, the 900s will be looked at to update language. We had second readings on policy 239, award scholarships contests sponsored by outside organizations. The district encourages students to participate in worthwhile activities, whether school-sponsored or not. However, the district shall not encourage any activity that materially interferes with instructional efforts or limits instructional time. Further, the district will not encourage, support, or facilitate student participation in award scholarships or contests that require a student fee for consideration. This policy details whether and when information about such programs can be shared with students. We had first readings for the following policies. Policy 215, promotion and retention. This policy will be brought back with clarifications and may be renamed to include acceleration. Both retention and acceleration are discouraged by the district, but will be spelled out further here. Policy 603, budget preparation. This policy details the budget preparation timeline. The budget shall be designed to carry out the educational plan and priorities in a thorough and efficient manner in accordance with applicable law. Administrative regulations are being worked on and will be brought for discussion at a future meeting. Policy 604, tax waiver requests. This policy details the process for various tax, interest, and penalty waiver requests. Policy in AR 605, tax levy. There are no changes to this policy. It's just being brought forward. Policy in AR 609, investments. The change to this policy is to move most of the detailed language of investments to the administrative regulation. We discussed administrative regulations next. Administrative Regulation 800, records management. This AR was brought back for review for consistency with other board policies. AR 915, school-related organizations. The change to this administrative regulation is to amend Appendix D with additional attachments. Appendix B contains detailed information and forms related to before and after school clubs and activities sponsored by home and school associations. The next policy committee meeting will be held on December 6th in this room. So for second reading, we had the following policy reviewed. Policy 239, scholarships, awards, and contests sponsored by outside organizations. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Oh, I need to read the first reading ones, right? The following policies were reviewed for first reading, but don't need a motion. Policy 603, budget preparation, Policy 604, tax waiver requests, and Policy 609, investments.
My turn. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize a few of our board directors who are spending their last regular business board meeting, actually their last meeting, with us tonight as board members. You are absolutely entitled to come back. The vital work you have done on behalf of our students, families, and community is to be commended. A school director's role is one that is challenging, and each of you have gone above and beyond. Some of you for many years have gone. At Lower Merion, our school directors devote countless hours each month to school business. They take the time to understand the issues, opportunities, and challenges that we face as a district, and truly are experts in their role. Your contributions have been many, and I thank each of you, Diane, Virginia, Robin, and David, for all the hard work and commitment through the years. On behalf of the entire Lower Merion School District community and administration, we are grateful for all that you have done and for putting students first. And you've all got some notes from students there in front of you, along with your things. Congratulations.
Thank you. I have a few words from Dr. Melissa Gilbert. Diane de Bonaventura was first elected in 1999 and has been a member of the Board of School Directors for 20 years. Diane served as president for 2 terms and as chair of every major committee. In particular, I would highlight her key role in building the 2 high schools. Diane's longevity on the board has been a great reference for all of us. Most recently, she has chaired the Finance Committee for the past 6 years, providing board leadership on the budget. Virginia Pollard has served on the board for 9 years. Reverend Pollard served 2 terms as vice president and has been a member of the Montgomery County Intermediate Union Board of Directors, also school directors, but for 6 years, including board secretary. Virginia has provided board leadership and working with community members across the district to ensure all children and families succeed. Robin Van Lynch has been a member of the board for 8 years. She has served 3 terms as president and 5 as the chair of the curriculum committee. Dr. Van Lynch spent many years as member of the CARE committee, both prior to and after becoming a school board director. Most recently, she has provided the board leadership around the implementation of the strategic planning goal of transformative curriculum. Dr. Van Lynch and Reverend Pollard made history as the first 2 African-American women to serve at the same time on the Lower Merion School Board, and while they both have always represented the entire community, they also work to ensure that all children and their families are well served by the district. Finally, David Fetterman has been a member of the board for 4 years. His contributions have been especially focused on contributing to managing our unprecedented enrollment growth, including the building of our new middle school. I'd like to thank each of you for the many hours of hard work, along with your loyalty and dedication to the Lower Merion School District. On behalf of the Board of School Directors, Superintendent Copeland, and the entire Lmsd community, I'd like to thank them for their countless hours of service to the district and especially the students of this community. I'd also like to thank their families for supporting them in their service. We sincerely wish you much enjoyment with the many hours of free time that you will soon have at the end of this month. Diane, would you like to say something? Yeah.
Thanks, Suva. Thanks, and Bob and Melissa. I know she's not feeling well today. And congrats to my colleagues who are also leaving the board. It's been quite an adventure. As this is my last meeting, I figured I'd take about a minute for every year of service. So then I just about covered my remarks. No, obviously I'm not going to do that. But first, I want to thank all the amazing administrators and staff members that I've had the pleasure to work with over the last 20 years. We all talk about how Lower Merion is a special place, but what truly makes it exceptional is the wonderful and dedicated people who work here. I am tempted to single out a few, but once I start, I won't know where to stop. So let me just say thank you to you all. I'd also like to thank all the HSA and ISC volunteers who have helped me stay connected to the schools, even after my children graduated. You've kept me informed and held me accountable, and I was a better board member because of you. I want to thank you for all the work you do for our children and our schools. As this is my last chance to speak from the board table, I'd like to take this opportunity to implore my colleagues to pass the change to school start times. I know the issue is complicated and difficult, but for the health of our children, it must be addressed. I first started working on this issue when I was a new board member in 2000. One of my very first meetings was a presentation on how the research was starting to show that high school students need more sleep. In particular, because teenager circadian rhythms make it almost impossible for them to fall asleep earlier than 10:30 or 11, the only way students are going to get the sleep they need is if we let them sleep later. It made intuitive sense to me when I first heard it, and by the time my children and their friends were in high school, I had personal experience to support my intuition. Since then, the research has become more definitive, yet we've never made the change. Every time it's come up over the years, the answer was always that it was too difficult and too expensive. Well, as a district, we have spent millions of dollars over the years on programs and infrastructure improvements we hoped would address a myriad of potential problems with varying levels of success, many of these with less conclusive research than we have on teenage sleep patterns. We have a 21st century strategic plan and facilities, but alas, we still have a 19th century school day. As David pointed out the other night, this is a recognized public health issue. It affects every one of our students right now. We are hurting our teenagers' health, well-being, and achievement by forcing them to start school at 7:30. It's time to fix this. In closing, I'd just like to say congratulations to our 4 new board members and best of luck to the entire board as you face new challenges in the future. This job is a labor of love and one we all enter with the hope of making a positive difference. I trust that you will find the service as rewarding as I have. Finally, I'd like to thank the residents of Lower Merion and Narberth for the opportunity to serve the children and community these last 20 years. It's been a great honor.
David?
I'm going to go this way, and this way.
Wasn't sure what I should say tonight. I was sort of had a busy day, and I was thinking about it over the weekend and scribbling at 6 o'clock on my computer tonight after having a meeting all day long. I echo a lot of what Diana said, and first I want to tell you it's been my honor and privilege to represent the folks of Lower Merion and Narberth these past 4 years. I want to thank all the board members for their service, and I think sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle, but we're all elected by the citizens, and we all serve and contribute our time, passion, and ourselves to this community. I think it also is important to recognize the great job that our administrators, building principals, our outstanding teachers, and the involved community, all of whom contribute to maintaining our tradition of excellence in our schools. In the end, you know, whether we have a one-room schoolhouse or the modern 21st century middle school facility, which will be open in just a couple of years, the success of our students in our district comes down to our dedicated teachers, students, parents, administrators, and our community. My friends and colleagues could not understand why I wanted to serve on this board in the first place. It was, they said it was a thankless, stressful, time-consuming position that would drive me nuts. And my response was always the same. It doesn't have to be that way. And that's still my response today. And in fact, it has not been a thankless job to me. Even tonight, just these cards from the Penn students thank me. But it's a rewarding position. Some of the most memorable occasions over the past 4 years have been when we've heard from members of the public who come here. Some people regularly come here and speak to us every occasion. Other times it's interested parents, concerned citizens. Sometimes they're complaining. Sometimes they're bitter. Sometimes they're praising us. But the persistence of the citizens who consistently, armed with data and studies and experts, spoke to us about the public health considerations about adolescent sleep, or the folks from Penn who frequently and sometimes quite vociferously, to put it mildly, protested the plan for expansion of the Penn Elementary School, or the regular board watchers who spoke on whatever issue mattered to them that day, or whether it's listening to high school students talk about LGBTQ issues and the need for a policy to protect them, or hearing from a host of students concerning a myriad of issues, whether it's too much homework, or why are we changing, why is the name of Mr. Harridan now Dr. Harridan? It's democracy in action. It's citizens being involved, and I think it's something that we want to encourage, not discourage. Sometimes people came with severe criticism. I never took it personally. Maybe it's because of the profession I'm in where people are angry all the time. But I tried to understand the level of passion of those that had the courage to stand at our podium and speak. It's not an easy thing to do for anyone. I've been a proud and lucky parent to have the honor of speaking at both my children's high school graduations. And that's just a great tradition. I'll close my comments with just a couple of thoughts about how I believe the board maybe can do better in the next 4 years with 4 new members of the board. Maybe we could do a little better to be more inclusive of various points of view. Maybe this board can encourage more open and honest debate, recognizing that there are many folks who feel as strongly about public education as we do, but may see different solutions to the issues that are important to all of us. That this board maybe be more civil in its discourse with folks that may disagree or challenge the board. Recognizing that we're all members of this community. Many are our friends and neighbors, sharing common goals and aspirations. That the board strive to make this a place where people don't talk about serving on the board as a thankless task. It shouldn't be. So again, I just want to thank my fellow board members for their tireless efforts. Thanks to Bob Copeland, Scott Eveslage, everybody out in the community, in the administration, Megan, Vic, Denise, Ken. I mean, we can go on and on. Everybody at the table. I mean, as Diane said, he can't name everybody. And one more thing I should add. One regret I have is that I won't be on the board when this middle school finally does open. And I am extremely confident that the issues, the complications, the problems, the disputes will be ironed out, and that the shovels will be in the ground when they're supposed to be. And I believe that, let me ask on behalf of the board members that are going off, that maybe we can all get a hard hat and have a shovel and help and be at that ceremony when both the fields and the middle school are open for business. But thanks, everybody.
Virginia?
It has been my pleasure to serve on this board for 9 years, 1 appointed and 2 elected. And during this time, I have made wonderful relationships. I have some friends forever. And that's a good thing when you can come to a place where you're, as David said, where it's not a thankless job, but we work together, and we have worked together to bring about wonderful things that are going to help this district to be and to continue to be the best, one of the best districts in the world. Because of this board, I have made relationships with the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, and that is one of the more better things that I have experienced while representing the district as a board member. Robin and I made history. We're also friends, and that will last forever, and that's good. But also, I want to just say that as the new board comes on, I am representing my community, but we all represent the entire community of Lower Merion and Narberth. And I need that to happen, because one of the things that happened when I told some of our community members that I wasn't running again, they were concerned because they wanted to know if Robin and I weren't running and weren't going to be on the board, who was going to represent them. We have to remember that we represent everybody, and we have to continue to represent everybody. Board members need to show up at special occasions that the students are having and let them know who you are, so that if parents have concerns, they can come to you directly and get answers, and they can come to you directly and get direction for their students and even for themselves. As this is our last official board member. Before I got on the board, I fought for our children. I fought for the teachers. I fought for the community. Now that I'm going to have a different position, I will continue to fight for the children, for our teachers, and for the community. And I feel so good right now. Someone asked me, was I sad? It's mixed emotions, but one of the things I feel so good about is the 4 new board members that are coming on are terrific. And I just see all good things that are going to be happening even the more because they're joining the ranks of school board members. So again, I say thank you, and you may see me by Miss Jenkins sitting there, so that we can keep an eye on what's going on. Thank you.
And last but not least, Robin.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson, and thank you, Mr. Copeland and Dr. Gilbert, for the kind words. I've been on the board for 8 years, and my 10-year-old son reminded me on the way out the door that he wasn't quite 2 when I began my first term. So that's all he's really known is me on the board. I must say that I'm very proud of the work that this board has accomplished and look forward to the newly elected board continuing along the same journey. The journey as an Lmsb board member is a uniquely challenging one. When I was elected in 2012, there were many goals that I wanted to prioritize, but I was quickly reminded by my board colleagues of the power of 5. Meaning that we needed at least 5 votes to move forward with any decision. The power of 5 required that I align my priorities with both my colleagues and the administration and get behind the decisions that I might not necessarily agree with personally, but acknowledge that power of 5 and the importance of a collaborative approach for the good of the district. My fondest memories will be serving as curriculum chair for each year that I wasn't board president and working closely with the administration, staff, and community. Attending and speaking at commencement ceremonies, my daughters as well, being at the fore of our phenomenal state-of-the-art strategic plan, and chairing the search for our superintendent, Bob Copeland, stand out as highlights for me. I've been asked if I'll miss the work. The work is long and hard, and I can honestly say I will miss it somewhat. I will miss, though, how as a board we honor the community, we put students first, and we ensure that we are using taxpayer dollars to provide the finest public school education that we possibly can. I want to thank everyone that's been a part of this journey. I especially want to thank the women in board and other areas of politics that quietly nudged me to consider running in the first place. I would like to publicly offer my congratulations to the newly elected board members. And my parents always have said, leave a place a little better than you found it. I hope that my commitment, leadership, and student-centered focus has done just that. So thank you.
Now we'll have audience recognition on agenda and non-agenda items. If you'll come in and sign in.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Altman, along with Caroline Minogue, and we are this year's Interschool Council co-presidents. And on behalf of so many of our predecessors at the ISC, we want to take a moment tonight to give our thanks to the outgoing Lower Merion Board of School Directors, Mrs. Diane de Bonaventura, Mr. David Fetterman, Mrs. Virginia Pollard, and Dr. Robin Van Lynch. Amongst them, they have given 41 years of stewardship to our community, truly countless Monday nights. We would be remiss if we did not point out that almost half of those years were contributed by Diane. 20 years of these meetings, committee meetings, budget reviews, 2 new high schools, redistricting, attendance at countless sporting and other events, and joining other parents at many of our ISC hot topics. We have something in common, all of you up there and us. We all volunteer our time for the betterment of all our students, but what you school directors do is really something. You sign up for quite the gig. Your thoughts and actions are publicly scrutinized and berated, your motives questioned, and your patience challenged. All the while, you should be thanked for being thoughtful, thorough, questioning, passionate, patient, and professional. We thank all 9 of you for your dedication to our children, especially as it takes you all away from your own families. And we give one more shout out to Diane and Virginia and David and Robin. May you enjoy your newfound free time. You all deserve it. I will say that we probably should have done color and crayons, but those look much better. But we really do sincerely thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ken, I think we have Sunshine Act.
Yes, there are 3 noted, but November 11th actually wasn't an executive session. It was just an information session. November 14th was an executive session regarding threat and litigation, and the executive session before tonight's meeting was the same. And also current litigation, the budget litigation.
Thank you. Future board
and
meeting?
For the record, I don't know that you made at the beginning that Dr. Gilbert's excused absence.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Dr. Gilbert has an excused absence. She's feeling ill today, and I had to take over.
Good job.
You did great, yes.
I'm almost done. Okay, future board meeting dates are December 2nd, reorganization meeting, where we'll meet the new board members. December 16th, regular business board meeting. We have the following committee meeting dates, which will meet November 21st, communications at 7 p.m. Please note that time. December 3rd, curriculum at 8:30 a.m. December 6th, policy at 8:30 a.m. December 12th, facilities and purchasing at 8:30 a.m. And December 13th, finance at 8:30 a.m. And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you for coming.